From County College of Morris, this is CCM All Access.
You're doing very well.
Hello, and welcome to CCM All Access, the program that brings you news and information from the County College of Morris. Students at CCM, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm Daniel Barkov, and we are coming to you from the Media Center here at CCM. Our guest tonight comes from the Career Service Center, Miss Rosemary Grant. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, like I said before, you work at the Career Service here at CCM.
I do.
Yes? Can you please go over some of the aspects of your job, please?
Sure. So I'm the Associate Director, and we have a staff of 5. We work with students and alumni getting ready for the job search. So resumes, cover letters, interviewing techniques, fleshing out opportunities that may or may not be on the internet and how you can find out about them. We do provide lifetime assistance for all our graduates, so that's technically 40,000 people. Thankfully, they don't all come back, but we do a lot with alumni.
So you go over with students specifically how to build a resume.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
I know at CCM it is a lot of students that come from different aspects of life.
Yes.
So can you go over a little bit with that with us, how you help students out with that?
Sure. So because CCM has so many non-traditional students, we may have folks who haven't ever really had a professional job. They may have worked in their local McDonald's or Starbucks, and that's great to get communication skills and those soft people skills. We also have folks who maybe just worked in a family business and have never really interacted with anyone other than family members as far as an employer, so that's kind of interesting. Landscape students mostly come in from family businesses, so again, all of a sudden they decide they'd like to do something different, work for a big turf management company, for example, so they have to sort of adjust their expectations for what is going to be asked of them. So there's that, and there's a lot of career changers. A lot of our nursing students had 2 or 3 careers prior to being nursing students. So we try to meet people where they are and help them glean all their strengths. Because oftentimes students come in and say, hey, I don't have any experience. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. We help them figure out. They usually have a lot more going for them than they realize.
Now, I'm one of those students that has had one of those career changes.
Okay.
So can you walk us a little bit through how important it is to update your resume and how important it is to make sure everything is very accurate when you present it to your new employer?
Absolutely. So oftentimes well-meaning friends of students will help them with the resume and suggest putting things on that resume that either may be a little bit inflated. For example, I had a student who said he was proficient at Excel pivot tables. It was on his resume, and I said, wow, you know, where did you learn that? He said, oh, no, I'm not really that good, but my brother's friend said I should do that. And I said, well, a resume is kind of a script, so a recruiter is going to read from that and ask you where you got the experience if they can't find it. So really important to be self-aware and knowing what your strengths are going in. So we try to help students paint a very accurate but their best picture of themselves. True, but their best, strongest picture.
Now, I have heard a couple times that, at least from people that I know, that you should inflate your resume just a tiny bit, maybe, you know, to make yourself a little bit more appealing. Do you think that's positive doing that, or?
When you say inflate, I think most students tend to undersell themselves.
Oh, okay.
So I've had students who have said, I've only done. Whenever a person starts out with that sentence, I've only done this, I've just done that, we usually try to probe. So tell me, like, where was your first job?
I actually, don't make fun of me for this, but I
try not to make fun of students.
I did and actually still do kids' birthday parties at Funplex.
That's awesome. So you have negotiation skills. You have, I'm sure, irate parents who things didn't go quite the way they thought they would.
I've had a couple of those.
You've had kids that are totally out of control that you're trying to rein in without, you know, losing it.
Yeah.
So all those skills are huge. Negotiation, compromise, staying calm. those are really important skills that employers like to know. So a question an employer might ask if that was on your resume would be, Daniil, tell me about a time when it was really going badly for you, whether with a colleague or a family or a child, and how you handled that. That would be a question that would often come out of that.
Now, I feel that specifically with interviews, I know you do other aspects as well, but specifically with interviews, I feel, as I did myself, and I actually interviewed for a hedge fund when I was trying to get internships, and I ended up getting the job. I don't want to brag,
Good for you.
but
Congratulations.
thank you so much. But I feel a lot of students, like I did in that moment, kind of choke, if it's a term to use. Are there any ways that you can explain how students could possibly improve their skills during interviews and make themselves better or more comfortable when they do interviews?
Sure. So you have to remember, you wouldn't have the interview if the person didn't think you were a good fit.
Okay.
So feel a little bit confident about the fact that your resume, if you will, passed muster, or your resume got you that interview. So if you can remember that as you walk in, they're not going to interview you to be nice or to be kind. We'd like to think that. But they're interviewing you because they see something in you. So clearly you've already gotten over one hurdle. It's intimidating, however, being in an interview that you really care about the outcome because you really want it. So I think trying to be yourself, and I know that sounds cliche, but trying to be as honest and to be yourself, but also very simple things. Sometimes students get so nervous they forget to smile. They forget that the other person is just a person. They were where you were maybe many years ago. But if they're honest with themselves, they remember it not feeling terribly confident, wanting to feel confident. So I think if students can try to remember that an interview is a conversation. Yes, there's a lot at stake sometimes for the person, but it is an exchange of ideas and conversation.
So actually, I just recently had an interview. I'm not going to lie, I don't think I got it. However, I feel every single time I've done an interview, even if whether I've gotten it or not gotten it, I've picked up things that have benefited me.
Good for you.
But I know a lot of students kind of think of that as not a positive aspect of the interview process. And at least for me, I like to think of failure as a way to basically increase your skills and get better and better. Do you see a lot of students who kind of get demoralized when they do interviews and kind of fail through them?
Yes, and I think they haven't done enough of them, which is why we encourage students, not that you want a student to waste their time or an employer's time, but to go on absolutely every interview, unless it really sounds outlandish, to get that practice. Because again, we all get better and better when we do things over and over. And I'm thinking of one student who she just, yes, it's a crushing blow every time she doesn't get a position, but she's literally gone on 3 interviews. And I try to explain to her that sometimes it takes 10 to 12 to get one offer. So it's a numbers game too.
Yeah. Now, I know that you also help students if they want to transfer to other schools, and that is an incredibly important part, specifically being at a community college and students who want to go to 4-year schools, you know. Can you go a little bit over what you do in that aspect for us,
Sure.
please?
So those resumes might look a little bit different. We call them academic resumes versus employment. So for example, maybe on your employment resume, you're not going to put everything you did at CCM as far as clubs or leadership, but on an academic, you're going to want to put it all down there. GPA, hopefully if it's over a 3.0, you're going to want to include it. If it's not over a 3.0, I just wouldn't bring attention to it, and I just tell students just leave it off then, because there could be a very good reason that their GPA isn't so high. They could be taking care of family members, or there's lots, again, our students come from so many different kinds of backgrounds. Doesn't mean that the person's not trying their very best, but unless they're in certain majors, it's okay that they have a 2.7 or 2.9. Be better for their transfer if they could have a 3.1, 3.2, 3.4, but it is what it is. We also see a lot of alumni for graduate school applications.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Now we will take a quick break. When we return, Rosemary is going to walk us through how to write a resume. Stay tuned.
Not all County College of Morris students look like me.
Some look like me.
Or me.
Or me.
Or me.
We all come to CCM at different stages of life.
And for different reasons.
I plan to transfer to a university.
I'm training for a new career as a nurse.
But we all know one thing.
CCM is where we want to be.
So check out the website.
Check out the website.
Check out the website.
And let CCM connect learning and your life.
And we're back on CCM All Access. I'm Daniil Barkov. We're here with Rosemary Grant from the Career Services Department. So, I understand we have basically a job, a resume builder on the CCM website.
We absolutely do.
Could you please walk us through that?
Be happy to. So under Student Life on the main page, I have Career Services and Cooperative Education, which is our office. And what will happen is, with any luck, Optimal Resume. It's going to be right there. So what will happen as a new user, Daniil, is you'll go on and create an account. You can use this for as long as you want. We don't ever take it away from students. It's paid for by the college for our students and our alumni. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as myself to save time, but it'll take you 2 to 3 minutes to create an account. And there's great tutorials, and they will also help you with cover letters and interviews. But today we're going to focus just on the resume for now. And let me ask you, have you written a resume in the past?
I have, but it has not been the best resume.
Okay, well that's honest. I appreciate that.
So I'm looking forward to you helping me today.
And what happens sometimes for students is they treat it like they would an application, and resumes are not applications, and that's a hard thing sometimes to differentiate between.
Now, I heard a resume is in a way you're trying to sell yourself to the business.
Yeah, some students aren't comfortable with the word sell, so I'll say to them, well, think of it as presenting yourself. Because some folks are like, well, I can't sell things. I'm like, well, think of it as presenting your information then to the world. So fingers crossed this will come right up for us, and it did. So what'll happen is you'll have all these choices, resumes, interviews, cover letters. We are going to basically just create a new resume. Now, obviously, we don't have a lot of time to go through everything, but it's an extremely user-friendly system. And we go into classrooms and present this all the time. Fine arts, engineering, business, it doesn't really, everyone needs a resume. It doesn't matter what your major is. So what's neat about it is there's different ways to go about this. Our alumni will use samples because they've had more experience and there's a little bit more to pull from. Students who are just kind of getting their first professional job will want to come in and pick the option that is best suited to them. So most students, so you're a finance major?
Yes.
Neil? Okay. Have you had any finance background yet?
I've had 2 internships.
Okay. So instead of being a student without related experience, you would go down here. General, you have some related experience. So what you'll notice is depending on the resume type you choose, the suggested sections will change. So let's go to that, some related. And you'll see instead of an objective, there's a summary. Now, none of this is in stone, but it's just saying that, okay, if you've had some experience, you may also have some memberships or affiliations, but we're definitely going to include your internship. So you're going to hit continue. Now, because Daniil, this is my account, it's pulling up all my contact information. Once you have an account, all of this will come up. You don't have to include all of it, but I would encourage you to at least include your town. Employers do kind of know what type of a commute a person has, and it's really kind of an illegal question from a human resource person. So if you can just make it as easy as possible for the recruiter to know where you're coming from, your chances of your resume getting you the interview is much better. The way it works on this side is this is like the table of contents for the workspace. So these are all the sections.
So it highlights it depending on where you want to go.
Highlights it, absolutely. Tools are down here, some great videos. The Department of Labor ONET link is down there. And at the very end, once this is, excuse me, populated, up here is where a spell check is, and you can choose one of 18 templates to visually present your information. So nothing will change content-wise, but there's lots of different choices. If you're not sure where to start, another reason I love this is you click on any of these sections and there's examples that you can pick from. So you're going to look at the example, and I know it's a little hard because they're small here, but it will give you an idea. Since this is a summary, they're more summaries than objectives. You could pick, say, this one, but customize it. Okay? clearly you don't have 10 years of experience
Yeah,
yet.
unfortunately
Not
not.
yet, not yet. We don't want to do a time travel thing on you. So what'll happen is, though, you might have 2 years of experience. Let's pretend you had your internships were a year each. I know they probably weren't.
They were not.
But what you might be able to do is just go in, and it acts just like Word. So you're just gonna customize it. Oops, 2 years. Oh, and delete. It's going backwards. Interesting.
You just have to move it over a little bit.
Okay. And then go backspace, maybe
Yeah.
is a better way of
Yep.
doing it. Delete. No.
No, yeah, one more time.
Yeah.
Yep, one more time. Yep, and then space. Yep.
Okay, and you're not in the mental health field, you would go in and you would just put finance field. So you can customize anything you want under each of these sections. If you're concerned about finding action verbs, which we'll talk about in just a second, they have a whole list of those as well. Easiest thing to remember is you have to just save before you go on to the next section. So you either save or cancel, but if I try to go right into education, nothing happens. So you save, and then it goes right to the next section.
Okay.
Now, for someone like yourself who's had an internship, you could either put that under related experience, and it will ask you the employer's name, the employer location, just the town, what your job title was. What was your type of internship, was it?
I was an assistant to the CRO at Jones Trading.
Okay, so you might want to put either intern/assistant to the CRO or assistant to the CRO and indicate that you were an intern in the body of it.
Okay.
Either way, and give the date range, whether it was a summer internship, spring. You don't have to get too much into months and years because it's not a typical position. However, if you decide, you know what, oopsies, sorry folks. If you decide you'd rather really, put the word intern in there, you can go in and add a section. So if you click add section, right? And the minute you start typing in a title, the system will give you ideas.
Okay.
Internship, involvements, intercollegiate, whatever. We want internship, so that's
it's very easy to
It
basically.
is so easy to customize. And a lot of students really want the word internship on their resume because it is important. One thing, though, to remember is when you add a section, like we just showed you on this button, it goes to the bottom of the resume. So you just want to go right to where the reorder button is and put it in the right spot because you really
wow.
want that under your education
Okay.
or under your related experience, either way. And that's really how the system works. It's very, very friendly once you have it populated. And the reason that it's in the logical order it is because education's a little higher since you're a current college student. That, by virtue of it being high on the resume, tells the employer you haven't had a chance yet to have a ton of experience. But just like everything else, why reinvent the wheel? Go right to examples, and we have basically, obviously, customized them to CCM.
Okay.
So you might want to put some related coursework, high-level finance courses you might have taken here, or macroeconomics. You don't even need this many, but
So,
3 or 4.
Specifically for education, you could go in depth on what you're learning specific. Okay, all right.
Absolutely, especially if you don't have relevant experience yet. It's a way to show an employer you have at least the academic or theoretical background. You may not have the practical.
Okay.
And this is where you can also include your GPA if you'd like.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Some students will also put in here if they've had scholarships. So it's a place, even though it's education, under those examples you can also add to it. So one other thing just to point out, so again, there's examples for every single section. One really nice thing I think it helps students figure out is that once it's populated, you can really style it all so differently. So just picking one, I tend to pick Emerson because I like it, but once a student looks around, so now it's taken everything I've put in there, but it's formatted it differently. And then, if you're applying for an internship, you're going to want to download it. So all you hit is download. It goes right to MS Word or PDF. When we're working with students, when we are working with students, we ask them to send up Microsoft Word so we can make edits back and forth. But once you get ready to send it to an employer, you want it to be a PDF, of course. Loads right onto your hard drive or jump drive. This will still exist as your internet account. But before you do that, please, please, please do spell check. Probably one of the worst things that can happen is a student has a phenomenal resume. They put it through spell check, and sometimes the word customer will come up in place of customer. So even though there's no typo technically, we've had employers call and say, You know, he's a great candidate, really, you know, knew his stuff or knew her stuff. It was a shame that she wasn't more careful with her resume. We're like,
Oh, wow.
ah. So we've seen that, and it's heartbreaking to us. It's heartbreaking for the students. So while spell check is great, I always tell people, have another human being look at your resume before you send it. A professor, a friend, a significant person in your life who knows possibly a little bit more than you do before you send it in.
Now, specifically for the skills aspect.
Yes.
So I speak 3 languages. I don't mean to brag,
Awesome.
but
You should brag.
but,
Threes is great.
So
Three
if
is great.
if I was to write that in, how would I list that? Would I just say knows, for example, Russian, knows Ukrainian?
Are you fluent in all of those?
I'm fluent in Russian, and I would say I'm more semi-fluent in Ukrainian.
Okay, so sometimes what students will do is put it under skills, and they'll put fluent in and the languages, and they may below that put conversational.
Okay.
So it's a way to show a person that you can write. Usually fluent is writing and speaking and understanding and reading, whereas conversational, you can get yourself around a restaurant or a bus stop or whatever in that country. But language skills are huge. And this is also where if you go into examples, you'll see, you know, software examples, public speaking. Again, be careful when you use the examples. They're great, but just make sure that you customize them.
Yeah.
So we've had students who, again, got called away to do something. They hit save. I'm like, oh, you're a CPA? What are you doing here? Or whatever skill they might have picked from the example. So go in, like, you know, you can bold them, but bilingual is so important, and it's really important, to include that. Other students will put international experience as a separate category if they've traveled internationally. Because again, employers are interested in that.
Okay, yeah, because I know a big issue that I had was specifically that you said like conversational. That's very important because I didn't know how I would present myself because I can speak Ukrainian, but more it's kind of difficult for me to write and speak. You know.
So by
read.
saying conversational, they understand that. That's almost the definition.
So even the fact that there are examples, that makes it so much easier because you can look for it as examples, and I think that's overwhelming to a lot of students, basically not knowing how to present stuff and what to write. So that's very important.
Right, absolutely. And they'll say proficient or familiar, you know, they'll help a student figure out, well, I'm not great at that, but I kind of could figure it out if, you know, I have a little direction as opposed to I can, you know, run with that. Okay,
well,
so
that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
When we return, Rosemary and I are going to do a mock job interview. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Not all County College of Morris students look like me.
Some look like me.
Or me.
Or me.
Or me.
We all come to CCM at different stages of life and for different reasons.
I plan to transfer to a university. I'm training for a new career as a nurse.
But we all know one thing.
CCM is where we want to be.
So check out the website
Check out the website.
Check out the website.
and let CCM connect learning and your life.
Okay, here's a scenario. I found an excellent internship opportunity and I was called in for an interview. Let's see how it goes. Hi.
Good morning, Danielle. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a current student here at CCM University. I'm actually fluent in 2 languages, and I am a business administration major.
And I see by your resume you've done a couple of internships already.
Yes.
How did you find out about those and how did you pursue them?
I actually applied through LinkedIn for one of my internships, and then the other one, I actually got it through a family friend, and I worked there for 2 semesters, and I actually ended up working up to a higher position job there.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. What kinds of things were you doing in that second internship where you were able to get promoted, if you will? What kind of activities were you involved with?
So I actually handled a lot of the business management for the person I was assisting. I did a lot of the Excel work. I organized a lot of his meetings and basically tried to set up a schedule for him so it wouldn't be too chaotic for him.
Nice. Very good. Like any job, it has its good points and bad. What did you find challenging about that particular
Challenging?
position? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing was hoping to not fail because I knew if I would basically cause the person who I was assisting to fail. So it was a little bit of dread that I would constantly have.
Okay.
Thankfully, I did not fail, but I know that was always in the back of my mind, and that was kind of what made the internship difficult, the most difficult in my opinion.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a time where things maybe didn't go as you had hoped, and what steps you took to remedy it. And it could be anything from schoolwork to a part-time job in high school.
So actually, one of the jobs that I did when I was in high school was I was a party host for kids' birthday parties, and we had a person come in. A lot of it is based on a schedule, and normally I would have 2 birthday parties in a day, and it's like I said, it's very based schedule wise. And one time we had a party come in about 2 hours late, and that basically puts me at a disadvantage. It basically makes them lose a lot of the time that they would have planned and a lot of the attractions that they would do. And at the same time, it would make me fall behind in the second party, which would make me lose money as well. But then when those people arrived, they tried to blame it on the facility that I was in
Okay.
and cause a lot of issues. They actually caused one of my coworkers to start crying, and I think it was the only time in a job where I've actually felt angry at the customer. But that was possible. That was most likely the most challenging.
How did you accommodate the 2 conflicting parties? I mean, how did you handle that, I guess is what I'm saying. How did you remedy that with the family that was 2 hours late?
Well, a lot of what I basically realized was a lot of it wasn't on me, because basically either way the company would accommodate them either way, and it would be on me to do so.
Okay.
So, basically I still had to do the same thing that I would do for them normally. However, it would be adjusted to make it a lot more simple, and for me basically to be able to still do the other aspect of my job as well, so I wouldn't disappoint the next customer who would most likely be on time as well. But even when we were accommodating the customer, there was clearly issues. So you could tell that the people definitely were not having a good time.
Well, again, when the clients that we cater to are similar to possibly that family in that sometimes they're not, they think they want a certain service, but they're not always willing to go the full mile. You would be assisting other financial planners, and there's times where there might be 3 planners that all want assistance from yourself. How would you go about deciding or finding out which one had the most pressing need?
I think it's a very big part of it is seeing which client is the least likely to hold up their portion of the responsibility that they would need to do. And I think I would most likely try my hardest, obviously for all parties, but try my hardest to not accommodate, but to make it as easy as possible for both myself and the client that's having the most issues in basically securing a deal or anything like that.
Good. All right. As you know, our internship program is competitive. If I were to go to my manager and say, I have found the candidate and 2 of his best attributes are, what might I say to my manager to describe the 2 best attributes that you possess?
I would most likely say my ability to cooperate and solve issues, and my ability to communicate. I think that's definitely one of my biggest, most successful aspects.
Okay. The other thing my manager may ask is, no one's perfect, especially someone starting out in their career. They have challenges. What might be an area that you're looking to work on that you've noticed about yourself, either as a student or as an employee, that you know that you need to get a little stronger with?
I hope this doesn't affect my internship, but I do have somewhat of an issue with deadlines. I know they're coming, and I'm always able to succeed on the deadline that it is due, but I have procrastinated in the past. However, I believe it was Steve Jobs that said that I would rather have somebody who can get something done when they procrastinate instead of somebody who can get something done months in advance.
Okay, very good. The last question that I have for you is, why us? There's a lot of other financial planning companies out there. Just curious as to what about our organization appealed to you.
A lot of people in the industry hold your organization in high regard, and I believe they are at the top of, like I said, in all other organizations, they are at the top, and they expect the most from their employees, and I expect the most from myself as well. So I do not want to work for somebody who expects mediocrity. I would like to work for somebody who wants the best and who would drive me forward and push me to be the best that I can be.
I like that. Okay. Questions that you may have for me?
What do you think is the most difficult aspect for somebody like me?
Just getting started is knowing sometimes what we don't know. We've had interns in the past who have been very intelligent and bright and took initiative, but maybe needed to take a little less initiative and pump the brakes a little bit and go for direction. That's probably the one piece of advice I would give a person, is to just, self-awareness is great, but also when you're learning, to not be afraid to ask questions. I think the interns that have been the most successful have asked a ton of questions, and they've learned a lot, and they've impressed the planners that they've worked with recommendations for going on to four-year schools and graduate school and whatnot. So we'd like this to be a win-win situation with an internship. It shouldn't be all one-sided, but clearly we have clients that we're trying to service, and probably more every day, which is great for us, but we want to treat our interns fairly and give them a good experience, but we also expect a level of professionalism and competency from them. So that's where I would say someone like yourself could benefit. I would hope, I would think. We worked with CCM in the past, and they've always been very, they've sent us some really solid students. Work ethic has been a good one. So we look forward to hopefully following up this with a second interview, and then you will be meeting with two of the planners and another HR rep to try to give us a sense of how you interact with different types of personalities.
Okay, well, I hope you will have me back for a second interview.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, Rosemary is going to give me some feedback on my interview.
I thought you did very well. There are just maybe 3 things that I noticed that I would touch on and suggest that you think about a different response for. One thing I noticed is that you refer to, and when folks get nervous, we often say things that we are not quite sure of what we're saying. So County College of Morris, since there's 40,000 people in this state or have moved on that have graduated from here, not County College University.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay, don't be sorry, but that's what happens when we get nervous. And also, you didn't do this, but oftentimes students don't know what degree they've gotten. I've had students say that they've gotten a bachelor's. We don't confer bachelor degrees here. So just again, people understand that you're nervous, but at the same time, it's best to know the name of your school. And I know that you knew that. Secondly, that question's a tough one about what you need to work on. It used to be called, what's your greatest weakness, or what area do you need to improve on? And I thought what you said was good, but it was a little bit too self-effacing in terms of deadline, because an employer could hear that and be like, ah! So it's honest, but maybe following up by saying what you've done to remedy it, whether it's giving yourself false deadlines, that now you're trying to get things done a little bit, you know, more ahead of time, and that's worked out better for papers at school. Give an example of how you've worked on it. And then just the last thing I would just say was, because we're living in the era of the internet, and this was hard because I'm a made-up company, but wherever you're interviewing, you're going to definitely want to get more specific for why you want to work here. So you might have said something like, we'll pretend I work at BlackRock. I understand BlackRock was 3rd in a row for the last 5 years as the top financial planning company that, you know, encouraged philanthropic or whatever awards the company might have gotten, so, you know, any kind of recognition, what their specialty is. So just find out, because they like to be flattered. Quite honestly, recruiters and employers like to think that the person's done research. Other than that, I thought you did well. I thought you spoke slowly. I don't think you used repetitive language. A lot of students, again, when they get nervous, it's like. And we all do that, but you didn't. And I thought you were very poised. Again, it was just those 3 areas that you could be probably the next time. And that's what's great about Optimal Interview. You can actually see yourself recorded answering 10 to 15 questions. There's 800. I wouldn't recommend you do all 800. 10 to 15, and there's a coach feature that will pop up and say, if you don't know how to answer this question, this is might be what you want to say, and they'll actually give you anecdotal information as to how to respond. So optimal interviewing, part of optimal resume, can be hugely helpful.
I know the aspect that I think at least I saw I had the biggest issue with. I use fillers a lot, and that's I say every once in a while. I tried to not say like specifically for this interview, but I know in my daily life I say it very often. So I think that's definitely an aspect that I need to work on as well.
The first step is being aware of something. Once you're conscious of it, you usually can certainly use kind of tricks or tips to either just pause, because it's okay to not jump in with an answer. Sometimes students seem to need to fill the space, and it's okay to kind of pause. And one woman said, is it okay, a young woman said, if I look up? And I said, yeah, as long as it's not kind of something you're constantly doing, because then you're wondering, the other person's looking up like, is there something up there? So anything not done too much is okay. And again, you're going to get more and more comfortable. The more interviews you go on, the more responses you give, you're going to get stronger, for sure.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I appreciate having you today. Thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This has been another edition of CCM All Access. We will see you next time.